I'm going to call this meeting of the Committee on Ways and Means to order. Today is July 16th. It is past our start time. I apologize for that. 4:59, as Madam Clerk just reminded me. So we've got a long agenda. We're going to do our best to move through this rapidly. And if we can, I'm looking around. Councilmember Seekings, if you would provide us with an invocation, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We all bow our heads. Heavenly Father, thank you for gathering us all here today as a community, a beautiful place of worship. Please remember that we are all here as members of the city of Charleston, brothers and sisterhood, that seek to do the good for all and the good for each one. Bless all that are in this room. Bless those who lead us. Bless those who protect us. And most importantly, bless those who keep us safe every single day.
Thank you. And I think we've got microphones, council members, so if y'all would just pass around as we go along here. Item number 2 is the approval of minutes. Both of these items have, in fact, been deferred, so we're going to move on to item 3, that's bids and purchases. Is there a motion? You got a motion and a second? All those in favor signify. Yes. Councilman Shealy.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have a question. Nobody's more excited about the Forensic Center to come into District 2, which we're in District 2, by the way. However, when I was looking through that, as I got down to item 261 on there, it's showing that we're going to be storing this for 8 months, and the cost on that's going to be $11,300. And I don't know who to ask on that, but I wanted to get some clarification. Do we have to purchase this 8 months ahead, I guess, or do we have to spend that $11,300?
No, sir, we don't have to right now, but there actually is a cost savings. We sat down with BFRC and the vendor, and we went through, if we were to purchase it now, there actually is a cost savings because of inflation and escalation on the product for the next several months during construction. So there actually is a cost savings by purchasing it now.
Okay, so we will save money by going on ahead and,
yes, sir,
doing this. Okay, I'm fine with that.
All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Police Department approval of an after-the-fact item for $12,700 to increase a grant award.
Second.
Any discussion? I'm just going to make a quick comment that I'm not a fan of after-the-fact approval items. However, in this case, I am glad we were able to remove these votes, so I'm going to vote in favor of it. I would just ask, as we move forward, do our best to eliminate the ability to have to do after-the-fact approvals with this body. I would appreciate it. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it. Item 5 is the Fire Department. That's for a grant for $12,500. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Item 6 is stormwater approval for a grant application of 50-50 match of $125,000. Any discussion? Did you get that? Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Item 7 is resiliency to approval 2019 SEC. Yes, Councilman Shealy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just wanted to ask how we are going to choose how these bags are distributed. I'm obviously for it. There's no city match. But how will we go about distributing these bags? Is there a process or a plan in place?
Sterling, you going to answer that for us? Thank you.
I know a little, I'm not sure if this is on. Can you hear me? Yes. I am not sure exactly what the plan is as far as distribution goes. I know that this is funding for some roundtable discussions, some actual sample bags to be passed out and to be distributed, like you said, as well as some signage, educational materials, and all of that type of thing. I'm not sure exactly about the plan, and I know Katie McCain would have more information on that for you, so I can definitely get back to you on that.
Okay, thank you.
Do we know who's going to run the educational program? Katie McCain. Okay, all right, thank you. Any further discussion? Councilman Shealy, is that okay? Are we going to move forward? Okay. Okay. All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Item 8 is the Mayor's Office on Children and Youth Families.
I'll move for approval.
Any discussion?
Yes, just one question. Will this be on the downtown campus? Because a lot of times everything is always up in North Charleston. Will this training be on the downtown campus?
For Trident Tech?
Trident Tech, yeah.
Do we know?
Mindy, use the mic, please.
Yes, sir. We actually are planning to partner with Sea Island Habitat, and so the youth are drawn from the zip codes where they have the highest dropout rates, which would include some of the North Charleston zip codes, but we also are looking to include the islands, the students that are out here as well.
But the training will be done downtown, that's my question.
Oh, you mean on the Palmer campus?
Palmer campus, yes.
Well, it would be dictated by where they do the training, so we would be constrained by the Trident Tech, but the grant will include funding for transportation, so that the students would be taken to their courses, or vice versa if they were in needing to be taken to the construction site.
Thank you.
So transportation is part of it.
All right, Councilman Moody?
Yeah, I was just curious, this $150,000 here, 3 years, we're committing $50,000 a year for 3 years? Is that, I mean, this,
Yeah, 48,611.
I guess when we get into ad hoc budget committee meeting and you're wondering what happened to the money,
Right,
here it is,
Right.
some of it.
right,
So, I mean, I just want the council to recognize what we're doing here.
right. Yeah, Councilman Mitchell?
What mechanism are you going to use to acquire, to find out these youth for this particular program?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
How would you
Re-
recruit
the
these
students?
kids?
Well, from multiple sources, from many sources. They actually recommend in the grant getting 100 students in hopes of serving 50. So we would recruit them through school district, adult education, partnership with SC Works, really all of those partners that would have those populations of students.
I don't too much care, but, not care, but the school district, I don't know about them if they're going to do anything at all to me. And I just want to make sure that the kids that really needed, our youth that really needed,
Yes,
is
sir.
going to be in this particular program.
Yes, sir.
And-
Actually,
and have
it's a
that-
requirement of the grant that they be a dropout.
Okay, will they be coming back to us? Let us know how it's being worked out? Did we get any information on it after the fact?
Yes, sir. Actually, there's an evaluation period that goes on a year out, and the youth that go through the program leave with certification. And the metrics of the program are for how many actually go on to employment.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it. Items number 9, 10, and 11 are all Office of Cultural Affairs accepting the grant. If we're in order, we'll take all three. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it. Item 12 is Mayor's Office on Children, Youth, and Families. It's approval to accept the Youth Service America Agency grant of $2,000. Did you get that? All right. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it. Sorry, Councilman Griffin.
It's on.
I just wanted to take a second to give a shout out to this department and a situation that arose here in District 10 just a couple of weeks ago. Everybody knows how hot it is during the summers in Charleston, and I got a call from a sweet 81-year-old lady who didn't have any air conditioning and just begged and begged, could I please help? Didn't know where to go at first, so I talked to Councilmember Gregory, who gave me some really good insight, and I ended up getting in touch with Dominion Energy. And then I ended up speaking with Palmetto Cap and eventually the city. And between those organizations, we were able to buy her a brand new central unit because her complex would not allow a window unit. So we were able to put together $4,500 and get her a new unit. And that was a really, really beautiful thing. We couldn't have done that without the city. So just know that as we appropriate all this money tonight, a lot of it goes to some really, really great causes. Thank you.
Great. Very good. All right, item 13 is stormwater management approval of Hughie King Street drainage improvements. I think we did. You want to do it one more time? All right, we're going to take it one more. Let me back up to 12. Just call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it. All right, let's go back to 13, stormwater management. Did you get a motion on that one? All right, I got Mitchell and Gregory. Any discussion? Let let me start down here real quick. Councilman Lewis,
Well, I'm just certainly happy to see that this is on the agenda
that's
tonight.
why I want to start with him.
And and I hope we will continue to work hard to move this project forward, where we can settle this flooding problem on that particular corridor between Line Street and Hughes Street, because I always say it's one of the biggest public safety habits in the city of Charleston. If we don't get this problem solved, we're going to continue to have cars flooding out, cars turning over, and people trying to get between south of the city going north, not going to be able to get through. So I'll be glad to see when this work is started. It probably make me sleep a little bit at night too. Thank you.
In only 20 years, right? Councilman Moody? All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it. Item 14 is the Parks Capital Projects. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it. Item 15 is another capital projects. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Ayes have it. Item 16 is the forensic lab. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it. Item 17 is Parks and Capital Projects International African American Museum. Any discussion? Yeah, Mr. Mayor.
Could we take 17, 21 all the way to
Yep, the request is take 17 through 20.
Second.
All right.
21.
Excuse me, 21. Thank you. Okay.
And perhaps before we vote, I believe we have a presentation.
Okay.
To be given to council.
We can't hear on this side.
So the mayor was commenting that before we vote, there was an opportunity to have a presentation. So who do we have from?
Mayor Riley, and I think he's got some other folks that are joining him
Mr.
from
Moore.
the
Okay.
Michael Moore from the International African American Museum. And before you start, Mayor Riley, I would just like to note that I need to recuse myself as I serve on the board of the African American Museum for this.
Okay. Mayor Riley, and welcome.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, Mayor Tecklenburg, and members of City Council, and ladies and gentlemen. It's an honor to be before you tonight on this most important matter, and I want to begin by thanking all of you for the strong, strident support that you've given the International African American Museum. A brief story that I think is meaningful here. The Chartres Cathedral in Chartres, France, construction began on it in the late 12th century. And there's a story of the big brick, huge cathedral towering over that part of France, that a passerby saw the man laying brick to build the cathedral and said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "I'm laying brick." And then this passerby went to the next mason and he said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Sir, I'm building a cathedral." Well, what you have before you tonight is the construction of most extraordinary museum to serve this community in our country. David Blight just won the Pulitzer Prize for his amazing and massive volume of History of Frederick Douglass, and he's the highest ranking professor at Yale University. And this is what David Blight said about the International African American Museum. He said, "It is one of the most important commemorative projects in American history." Lonnie Bunch, the director of the National Museum in Washington, said, "It is so important, Joe, what you're doing in Charleston, y'all doing in Charleston, because it is essential that history is presented where it occurred." So what we have the opportunity to do, Mayor Tecklenburg, Chairman White, members of City Council, and ladies and gentlemen, is we have the opportunity to create a museum of extraordinary importance, not just to our community and to our region, but to our country. For what we all know is that these are stories we do not know. We don't know African American history. It hasn't been taught, and it must be presented in this extraordinary museum on those most moving and telling sight. I want to thank so many people that have been working on this, and I'll do it quickly. Our board of directors, and 2 members of the board of directors are here to thank you on City Council for your service. Wilbur Johnson is our chair. Where was Wilbur? Right there. Please stand, Wilbur. He's been the chair a long time, leading a lawyer in our community and given such wonderful service, and any other board members who are here. I want to thank the 2,200 donors to the museum, the over 200 volunteers, some of who are here tonight, to thank our state government for their support, our county government, in addition, obviously, to the city of Charleston and your support. And what I would like to do is just quickly thank the city staff and those who have a direct involvement in the museum, and others quickly. Amy Wharton, your most fabulous Chief Financial Officer. If they're here, just stand up or raise your hand. Jason Kronsberg, I know he's here, Director of Parks, which handles the construction for all city projects, the construction division. Edmund Most, Edmund, where you? Right there. If I have called Edmund once to discuss a matter about the museum, I've called him 250 times. He is so polite, and he's so helpful, and he is a perfectionist. Peter Hedegor is not here. He was with the construction division, working closely with him. He now has gone to work in construction at the Medical University. Susan Herdina, your most fabulous corporation counsel. Charlton Dessessor, your bond lawyer. Our designers were not here. Harry Cobb, Pay Cobb Freed, Bob Larimore, and Kurt Moody Nolan, and Ralph Applebaum. They're not here, or Walter Hood. They're extraordinary. Bobby Tichy is here. He's with Turner Brownstone, the construction managers for the museum. And then I would like to turn this microphone over to Michael Moore, and as I do so, thank and commend Michael Moore. Michael Moore is the Chief Executive Officer of the International African American Museum. He is the only Chief Executive Officer that the museum has ever had. He'll be leaving us to re-enter the private sector next month. I've worked with Michael since he joined us some years ago, essentially on a daily basis. Daily phone or email or text, often in person. We made fundraising calls around the country and around the state. He's the most punctual person I've ever known. He's 15 minutes ahead of schedule, which is just how he approaches things. Be ready, over and above and beyond the call of duty, and has provided his such thoughtful guidance and creative guidance in every aspect of the museum. Its design, its exhibits, its content, and he will introduce his colleagues on the staff, but I just want to publicly commend Michael Moore. He's the first Chief Executive Officer. He will always be such an important and essential part of the history of this museum, the museum that David Blight said is one of the most important, as I said, commemorative projects in American history. Michael Moore.
Not sure quite what to say to follow that, other than just thank you. It's been a great honor to work with the City Council, the Mayor, and of course with Mayor Riley on a daily basis. In the interest of time, I just want to very quickly say that, of course, underscore all of the thanks that Mayor Riley had. He's been thinking about this and working about this for over 19 years, and so we're very grateful for his leadership and stick-to-itiveness to make this happen. Just really quickly, I was joking with Lonnie Bunch once. It took that museum, the National Museum of African American History and Culture, it took them 100 years to get built. So it's a testament to Mayor Riley's fortitude that we're on a little bit of a faster schedule. So really quickly, I just want to have, we've got some staff and volunteers. If you all could just please stand. I just want to acknowledge them. Our team is growing, and we're grateful. The other thing I'd like to do just very briefly, you all have likely seen all of the renderings. They've been sort of in place for a while, but we have some fresher views of our landscape and the really beautiful memorial gardens that will surround the museum project. So I just wanted to quickly run through these, and then I've got literally a 60-second video just showing our construction. So we can move on. So our landscape architect is Walter Hood, who has created just very beautiful and meaningful installations all around the world, and ours will be certainly no different. It will be a beautiful park in the sense that it will be open during the times that Charleston parks are open. People can come and experience that as a separate experience than the museum. But it will also be very meaningful. This, for example, is a water feature that will commemorate those lost in the Middle Passage, of which historians say that a quarter to a third of all who left the African continent were lost at sea. So we'll have a very powerful piece to commemorate that. A stele garden, which is an ancient commemorative item that will be there. As many of you all know, we did some archaeological work a number of years ago and found the remnant of the foundation of a warehouse on the site where some particular tragedy occurred, where about 800 or 900 enslaved Africans essentially froze to death, died, and so we'll commemorate that space. These are tall, 8-foot, highly polished granite walls with some kneeling figures throughout. That's the backside of that wall where there'll be inscriptions commemorating that history. A sweetgrass basket sort of motif, just again for people to sit, to contemplate, to relax, but also that is connected into the history here in the Low Country. So we are endeavoring, it's going to be a very beautiful, beautifully framed sort of experience. So we've got, as I said, just a 60-second or so video that will actually illustrate the construction process. I want to reiterate that what we are coming for approval today, the construction process is actually comes in two phases. The first is really just the construction of the box, the core and the shell. The second will be at some point in the future will be actual approval for the financing of the exhibitions, the actual things that will make up the museum experience. So this tonight is just for the box. And if we're ready, we could show that video above. Yes, sir. So if it was only this simple as a sort of erector set like, but this just gives you a sense of how the construction will proceed. None of this inside is relevant. That's just placeholder. And not even that. It's just to illustrate that there's something going on in those spaces. Okay, I think that's it, Mayor Riley.
Michael, thank you. Mr. Chairman and members of City Council, one detail in my notes that was very important is that we have successfully raised funds to fully fund all of the contracts that are before you tonight.
You're right, that is very important. Yeah. All right, matter comes before before Ways and Means. Councilman Shade?
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to make a comment about this museum. I had the opportunity in April to travel with a contingency of Charlestonians to the Legacy Museum in Montgomery, Alabama. And part of that museum included the history of race relations and slavery throughout the southeast of America. And it contained, part of that, a lynching museum in commemoration of those who were lynched after the Civil War, after the 1940s. It was a very moving museum, and it had a tremendous impact on those of us who were present for that. And I just couldn't help think of Mayor Riley as to the impact that this museum is going to have on our community. It was interactive, like some of the things I think we'll have in this museum. And it's just so critically important, Mayor Riley and Mr. Moore, as to the work that y'all have done and your board has done. I just wanted to publicly say thank you for all the work that y'all have done on this. And it's absolutely accurate, the impact that this is going to have on our community after it's completed, and when we have an opportunity to walk through this and experience this total package of what this is going to transform Charleston into is a beacon of sorts of information and awareness. So I just wanted to make that comment. Thank you all for doing that.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? Any further discussion? All right. Councilman Waring?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Kudos have gone around, but it's been a wonderful experience to watch the next best thing come to Charleston. How do you prepare for that? I mean, from ground zero to the fly-through presentations that you saw today, the team that's been assembled, frankly, is second to none. The batons that have been passed almost for the last 19 years from one group to another has gotten us to this place today. Obviously, we look at the, I would say the leap forward today with this vote, but think of all the community involvement, positive and negative, over the last 19 years, and frankly, those who said it couldn't be done. As a matter of fact, it was a lot more of them on the early onset than certainly the day that we celebrate carrying this to the next level. Certainly it's been a relay, and it will be a relay continuing as we go forward. It's not over. It's just really beginning in a large way. So I commend everybody who's put time in the way of volunteering. I mean, today we look at today's volunteers, but when you think about almost 2 decades, and it's really 2 decades of volunteers from the community, near and far. We talked about Dr. Lonnie Bunch, who pioneered the African American Museum in D.C., who, I don't know if you saw in the paper recently, was selected to be over all of the museums at the Smithsonian. He says this is our Ellis Island, Charleston, South Carolina. So it's just not going to be a city, a state, a regional. It's really going to be an international. And the term international didn't come from the group that sits around the board or the staff that leads this today. The term international came from a group that was around the table 10 or more years ago. So I thank everybody who's had a role to play. I thank those who will continue to have a role to play. And I thank the community whose voices will still be heard going forward. So with that, I've already moved for approval. I'll do it again.
All right. Councilman Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I feel very awkward, basically, bringing up conversations that I think we're all aware of have been going on in I don't know how many months, but certainly we have all heard messages to us today and newspaper articles from earlier in the week. So I feel that we should be responsible and responsive to bring forward that there are people here today that are not 100% convinced that the museum has done everything that they can to provide some sort of inclusionary process that makes I would say especially the descendants of the people that came through with your Ellis Island illustration, Councilmember Waring. I wrestled with what I have known as items of request or even concern and objection that have been put forward to the museum community, and I really don't think that anything that we're making decisions about today is riding roughshod over some of those true concerns and the opportunities to be making them real and worked through as the months and the years go on for how the museum is going to turn out as a place that everyone in this community can be proud to present to the world, as you're saying. So I really feel like today we need to just agree that we are making decisions about spending money that we have been working on in the way that you work on all hard cost building projects, from the land acquisition, from the raising of the funds to finance it, from the design, from the construction, from the permits that we currently have in order to basically break ground in the next few months. I don't think anything that we're going to decide today is going to take away from opportunities to make this museum something that we can all believe in. And I really would just like to say that I'm really sorry that I have to be the one to say it, because I'm the new kid on the block in the city and on the council for sure. But I have heard people, say things out of their heart and their long-standing opinions, and I just feel like we need to put it out there to say that we're gonna honor all of the hard work of the museum community led by Mayor Riley for these 19 years, and we're gonna take a yes vote. But we don't expect that that's going to be a smoothing over of things that need to continue to be worked through. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? And one abstention. The ayes have it. Item 22 is stormwater approval memorandum of understanding between the Army Corps of Engineers and the City of Charleston. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it. Item 23 is ordinance establish Morris Drive. Oh, excuse me. Okay, item 23 is deferred. Do we need to, well, I guess we'll just move right on. All right, item 24, stormwater management approval of Spring Fishburne. This is for fee amendment number 17 with Davis and Floyd. And I believe there was some pending recommendation from Public Works. We will go ahead and take that now. Okay, so there's a motion on the floor. All right, Councilman Griffin.
I hope I don't look like Councilmember Seekings. I just wanted to, let everybody on City Council know we discussed this in Public Works, but this, it was a negotiation, and this number is a lot lower than it originally was. So kudos to everybody involved for negotiating and helping us with some cost savings. Lord knows we need to save every penny we can on this project. Thank you.
All right, any further discussion? Councilor Seekings.
Yeah, the real estate.
Just very briefly, I want to thank Councilmember and Chairman Waring for moving this through from our last council meeting. This was something that was important to everybody. We put it on a fast track. I think the result is good. We can now move forward with what is really a really important project that has to do with a lot of things that you're all here tonight and interested in, which is water. So we're moving forward with important large-scale projects. So thank you for making sure this got through. Appreciate it.
All right, any further discussion? I'm going to make a brief comment about this item. This is an item that was basically accomplished or work that was done that wasn't approved nor appropriated by this body. I think we started this conversation somewhere around maybe November of last year. Now, I do appreciate Mr. Fountain and others working hard to get this number down. However, I still am not going to support it. And for one sole reason, and that is that it is the responsibility of any staff member to come to this body to have funds appropriated for anything. Doesn't matter what it is. If it needs to be appropriated, it needs to come to this body, and it didn't. And I'm not going to support the efforts to be able to pay this contract. I'm sure it's going to get approved, but just know moving forward, this is not how we operate, and no one should think that this is okay. And if there are other items out there similar to this, they need to start coming forward now. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? And the ayes have it. Item 25 is stormwater management. This is approval of Spring Fishburne. This is for amendment number 19. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? And the ayes have it. Item 26 is the legal department ordinance to amend the fee schedule of a building and trade permits hereto incorporated within Exhibit I by providing an amendment for definition of revenue fee, by providing a new fee and plan revision review. I can read the whole thing if you want. No, I'm kidding. All right, any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? And the ayes have it. Item 17 is an audit committee report. Councilmember Seekings. Or excuse me, 27, I apologize.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Audit Committee met July 15th at 3 o'clock in City Hall. We received a report as requested by this council unanimously from our internal auditor, Mr. Majernik. He gave us his report orally and in writing. We have all received a copy now of that report. We also heard from our outside counsel, Mr. Michael Bergstedt, who also gave us a report in writing. The committee did not complete its work. We are going to reconvene next Thursday at 3 o'clock in City Hall to take questions, comments from council members, and a motion there might be. So still a work in progress. That's my report. No action needed. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Any discussion? Councilman Moody? Oh, did you have it?
I'm just getting ready for real estate report.
Oh, okay. I apologize. Any discussion? All those in favor? Oh, excuse me, information only. All right, moving on, sorry. 28. Chairman Moody, Committee on Real Estate.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. These items, I'm just going to run down them real quick for the council. Item A was approved 5-0. B, C were both, those were approved 5-0. Item D, there was one negative vote on that, but it was approved. Item E was 4-0 with one recusal. And did you sign that form? Okay, thank you. Item F was approved 5-0 also. We had 5 annexations. The first one was approved. The next 4, they were deferred. And then on the last, get my sheets here. Don't take that one. Item H, we got an update on that Brantley Park. That park is coming together and it's ready to go. The money's all there. So we got an update on that. Item I was the item that kind of came up last meeting. It was voted down, that contract was voted down, but it was reported in the paper that it was approved by the Real Estate Committee. Actually, it was disapproved by the Real Estate Committee, Ways and Means, and City Council. So we just wanted to be sure the record was clear on that. We went into executive session. We received 2 legal opinions on those 2 items that are listed there. There was no action taken. We came out of executive session and we voted on item L, the approval of that contract for that VCC services on that particular piece of property. And in addition to that, we also approved a separate now that one is going to be paid out of the recreation bond. We approved another one contract, kind of the same thing, but it's going to be paid out of the affordable housing and the housing budget, and it has to do with some affordable housing property that was part of that low-line acquisition. So all of those were approved, and the last item M was deferred. So I move that the committee report be accepted as presented.
Can I get a second? Second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? And the ayes have it. Councilman Seekings.
I just have a question. The deferral of 2, 3, 4, and 5 on the annexation. You need the mic. Sorry. Mike needs the mic. Yeah, I do. Just for purposes of tonight, I see 2, 3, 4, 5 were deferred. I take it to some date. Has that been discussed when that's going to be? Just let me ask one other question. I'll pass this down. Does that also coincide? Have we deferred the PUD as well? Is that all going? Is that off as well tonight? Because we got a lot of people here I think want to know about that.
I'll briefly, yes and yes. They're going to move.
Yeah, the 4 items had to do with the annexation of the property that's going to be in the PUD. The PUD is going to be deferred, or is deferred, and we were not willing to annex it until it was all put together. If we'd voted it down, then they would have had to start all over. So we're just asking for both of them to come back together so that we can consider it as a whole.
No. And that was by request of the applicant.
Thank you.
All right. Any further?
Well, you might say for the record, the nay and the recusal from Councilmember Jackson, because that wasn't stated.
Okay, so for the record, the nay and the recusal were Councilmember Jackson.
Yes.
All right. I think we need to call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? And the ayes have it. Is there any more business? Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Chairman, I did want to note a few items here for our guests who are here this evening. I know we were late getting started and we kind of rushed through these items, but I just wanted to point out a couple of things that we did pass tonight. Importantly, getting the drainage project going at the corner of Hugie and King Street, which Councilmember Lewis already noted is a great accomplishment and a move in the right direction. But I particularly want to point out number 14, which was our approval to proceed with the Department of Transportation LPA contract to improve Hugie Street. It's kind of related. It'll address some drainage, but also streetscape improvements. I wanted to thank Councilmember Waring. I can't see him the way we're lined up here this evening. He met with me along with a representative from the DOT just last week, and we'd been having a discussion for some time about the use of the mitigation funds that had been approved way back in 2006, and we came to an agreement with the DOT that a portion of those funds, up to $1 million, will be used for affordable housing. And so I want to thank Councilmember Waring for joining me on that effort. Number 22 on the agenda, by the way, was approval of a memorandum that will allow the low battery seawall project to proceed in the near future. So that was an important item. And finally, as was noted, the rather historic passage for the approval for the African American Museum. Thank you.
All right. Very good. All right, is there any further business come before this committee? All right, hearing none, we'll stay adjourned.